Governor Abbott of Texas, he orders a state-led homeless encampment removal in Austin against the wishes of the Democratic-led mayor. What's this look like? Let's get into it. Here we go. So this is one of those direct correlations of public policy. You've got Texas, red state, right? And it's got some purplish areas. You've got Austin, you've got parts of Dallas, you've got areas, you've got cities that have Democrats running the big cities because that's how it goes. They need all the support they can get because they draw in all the homeless and drug addicted and all the people needing services. And that's how big cities go, right? Well, Governor Abbott, he's looking at Austin going, hey, you guys need to clean up your stuff. What are you doing? You're letting these homeless encampments just run rampant. Public safety is becoming a real issue. Meanwhile, the panty waist of a mayor in Austin is like, oh, we just need compassion. We just need compassion. See what that looks like. Here we go.
Austin city leaders are pushing back on state intervention after state crews cleared nearly 50 homeless camps in Austin.
Okay. All right. Let's just start there, right? The mayor is upset that the state came in and cleaned up his own streets. He made the sidewalks accessible. He arrested a whole bunch of people that that had drugs on them, that had guns on them, that had fake badges, police badges. He arrested a bunch of people, and the mayor is upset. It's like these mayors of these big blue liberal cities getting upset that ICE is deporting criminal illegals from their communities. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. These people are misguided and they are mental.
City leaders told KVU's Daniel Perot they were left in the dark about the state's plans.
It's a disappointing day.
Governor Greg Abbott touting the homeless camp cleanups as making Austin safe and clean. But Austin Mayor Kirk Watson says the state's efforts lack empathy. On Tuesday, he spoke
Lip-tard, right? I mean, that's what you got going on. This guy's going to get up there and go, we need empathy. Nah, because these folks don't respond to empathy. They're not going into shelter. That's why they're staying outside in Texas during the summer heat because they want to do their drugs. They don't need empathy. They need treatment. And Greg Abbott knows that. Plus, he doesn't really care because this is in Austin, and Austin clearly isn't doing anything about it. So he's just going to take the bull by the horns like he did the southern border. Remember that? And just make it happen. Oh, but we need more empathy. Yeah, well, F your empathy, because you had plenty of time to work that into the system, and it didn't work. So you got to do something for the rest of the constituents' public safety in Austin, and this is what we're doing. We're clearing out almost 50 homeless encampments.
at the launch of a new initiative to raise awareness and funds for unhoused children and families.
It's not the way government ought to be working, particularly when we're talking about our most vulnerable Texans.
These are photos and videos of the state's operation showing troopers arresting people and members of the State Guard removing debris. The state says it cleared 3,000 pounds of debris, seized about a quarter pound.
48 homeless encampments, and they only seized 3,000, only a ton and a half of debris? I find that shocking. Are the homeless in Texas, are they not littering like they do here in Seattle or Portland? Because when they go in and clean up one homeless encampment, oftentimes they'll come up with like 10,000 pounds of garbage. So what's going on in Texas? Are they just light on garbage there, or what's the deal?
Of narcotics and arrested 24 people who the governor's office described as repeat felony offenders. We reached out to DPS to ask about those arrested and where they were taken. We've not heard back.
See how everybody's concerned about who's getting arrested? So criminals are being arrested, and the mayor, the libtard mayor of Austin, he's concerned with the children and families. Well, that's not who's in these homeless encampments. It's a bunch of criminal drug addicts and drug dealers and human traffickers, sex traffickers, buying and selling of stolen goods. It's that type of individual that's in the community, and Greg Abbott knows that. So that's why he's sending in his state resources. And that's why the libtard mayor of Texas, he's just like, we need more compassion. You need compassion, but you also need to drop the hammer at times. And that's what Greg Abbott has done.
Watson says he's glad to see state resources, and it's something the city has been asking for, but it needs to be done the right way.
All it does, if you send some group in just to clear someplace, is move the problem.
He says,
I would say typically that is true. I would say in a state and a city like Seattle or like California, LA, California, San Francisco, that is true. But there's also, because homelessness is frowned upon in Texas, they don't encourage it. I mean, Austin does to a certain extent, but for the most part, Texas pushes back. It's not acceptable to just allow the homeless to live wherever, just allow it to take over. And that's why you've got Greg Abbott doing what he's doing. What it does is it pushes back on the notion that you can just live wherever the F you want. And so then the homeless will migrate from Texas to California, to Oregon, to Seattle. Because why would you want to be tossed around like this by the governor when you can go to a state like my state and basically have the governors and the mayors completely cover your ass? I mean, you might get swept every now and then, but for the most part, you're going to be able to work out where you're going to be. There's no hatred towards the homeless. In fact, in Washington and, the West Coast, Best Coast, you've got advocates 10 ways from Sundays that are willing to wipe your ass. So why wouldn't you come to the West Coast to become homeless? Easier weather to deal with. I mean, I don't know if you've spent much time in Texas. Hot as hell during the summer, and in the winter, oh, it's cold. Those winds come across the plains. It is cold. The wind chill, you're like, oh, good Lord, this is chilly. Yeah, it's cold. Would not want to be in a, 2-season tent, which is what you're going to find in most homeless encampments at best. Living in one of those tents during, really cold times. That's just a miserable way to live. But that's the whole addiction component, right? Is that these folks are so addicted to drugs, so addicted to the life, that they're more willing to stay and try and stay throughout their homeless encampment than to go get shelter where, they're being offered shelter.
The city often works with the state to clear camps near highways and underpasses, but this operation on city parks and trails was a surprise.
It's unclear to us who will be doing what and where they'll be going next.
On Monday, Austin began a separate cleanup effort ahead of the winter months. Crews were in the area Tuesday when state teams showed up.
Had we known they were going to show up, we would have had that crew work in a different site, making a better use of that limited resource capacity.
Because of how the state conducted the operation, Mayor Watson and others here at City Hall say they're concerned that it will make it harder for them to continue the work they're doing to help those who are homeless and build trust with those communities.
As a result,
You had 48 homeless encampments that the state knew about, and you hadn't really cleared out. You hadn't really done much of anything. And the state came in and just, boop, cleaned them out. And they'd probably told you multiple times, hey, this needs to be cleaned up. This is not acceptable. We will not stand for this. We will not tolerate this. I mean, say what you want about Greg Abbott, but when he drops the hammer, he gets something done, which is, all right. So we played whack-a-mole with these 48 encampments, but it also sends the message, yeah, even if you have a mayor who's a Democrat who prioritizes misguided compassion over public safety, clearly, you still have the back of the governor who believes in public safety, who prioritizes constituents, tax-paying constituents, and says, all right, whatever this mayor is doing, we're going to override him. Boom, let's go in there. Let's get this done. And that's what he does without calling up the mayor and, hey, man, should we talk about this and come to some kind of, this back and forth? No, boom, done, cleaned up, gone, problem gone. Temporarily, right? But also puts in people's heads, man, I don't want to get swept like this again. That's brutal. All their stuff gets taken away. That's what happens, right? When you're living illegally on city property, state property, underneath an overpass, down by the river, you might get swept.
today's action, a lot of those folks have scattered, and we're going to have to now go try to find those folks, try to rebuild those relationships.
After the lack of communication, city leaders say they're extending olive branches to the state in hopes of coordinating better in the future.
Here were some of Governor Greg Abbott's concerns. We got weapons, we got needles, and other debris littering the city streets and state property. Typical namby-pamby Democrat mayor, just letting people live wherever because misguided compassion will try and help them. They need treatment. They need jail. They need mental institutions. Everybody's aware of that. And since we don't have most states, most municipalities don't have the ability, and they're not really actively putting people involuntarily into treatment. They're not putting people into mental health care facilities because we don't have too many. And we're not incarcerating them just for being homeless. So you're left with not too many options, and sweeping sometimes is the only answer when you get to this point where you've just had, homeless encampments taking over parks. And that's the difference between a big red state and a big blue state where I live, Washington, where we basically bend over backwards to basically enable the homeless to continue their life of addiction and crime. Governor announced the effort, which is dedicated to making the capital city safer and cleaner by relocating homeless individuals and removing encampments in and around state property. Texans should not endure public safety risks from homeless encampments and individuals. Let me read that again. Texans should not endure public safety risks from homeless encampments and individuals. Every state should be saying that, but they're not. Why? Because they have this misguided notion that sweeping people is not in their best interest. Let's just let them shoot up. Let's let them smoke up out on the streets until they die. That's the compassion that they're being offered, because they're not forcing these people to, hey, take that next step. Let's get you going on something. Let's get you going on treatment of some sort. State of Texas is taking action. I directed state agencies to address this risk, make Austin safer and cleaner for residents and visitors to live, travel, and conduct business. He basically just said, this is what we're doing. Came in, boom, did it. This would take literally years in the state of Washington to accomplish, if ever. Local authorities here, state of Washington, it took forever to clean out Ship Canal Bridge. Forever. It was a notorious encampment with just all kinds of storylines and criminal activity and human trafficking, sex trafficking, stealing from the local target. Just everything that you can kind of expect from a homeless community. And at some point in time, it became such a big story that our fearless governor at the time actually came and visited, like, hey, man, what's going on? It was so embarrassing. Because all you got to do is, just like what happened here, send some state resources in, clean it out. And it was Jay Inslee that just couldn't get his act together. Whereas Governor Abbott, Republican, takes care of business, boom, done. Till the next time you got to do a sweep, right? Operation is being led by Texas Department of Public Safety, coordination with Texas Department of Transportation, Texas State Guard, and the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So you've got some other entities in Texas, because Texas is so big and spread out. You've got other entities there that you don't have in a lot of other states. And it were some of those entities that were helping out secure the southern border when we literally had millions of criminal illegals overrunning not only our southern border, but also our northern border as well. But at the southern border, it was just a free-for-all, an absolute free-for-all. So not only does Texas have these resources to help out with the homeless encampment removal, but also basically to just keep the public safe. Let's take a look at some of these pictures. Okay. Yeah. There's some public just bringing in a truck. Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. Working on something there. Oh, there's the badge. There's the badge. This was an illegal badge. So why would somebody have a badge in a homeless community? Well, we've got that story going on here in Seattle. There's a guy that has been impersonating a police officer, and they worked out that he's a drug addict. And this is all alleged, but it makes sense. If you got a badge, you dress up in a cop suit, you go arrest somebody, maybe you take away their drugs. Now you've got your own drugs. Do that enough times, get your own little stash of drugs. It's actually ingenious. That's smart criminal activity. There we go. Criminal encampment. Okay. Ugh, that's nasty looking. That's messy. In those sweeps, among those arrested, 24 were identified as repeat felony offenders. If we swept all the homeless encampments in Washington, how many do you think repeat felony offenders we'd find? Maybe go down to Oregon, do the same thing in Portland and Eugene. How many repeat felony offenders do you think you would find? A lot. Additionally, the sweep resulted in the seizure of over 125 grams of narcotics. So this notion that they're just people that just lost their job and they're just this far off of, being evicted and then it happened. No, it's drugs, right? This is drugs. It's addiction. And the removal of firearms and drug paraphernalia from public areas. As you do. Hey, there's a bunch of drugs in here. Let's get rid of them. During the cleanup operation, 10 subjects were found to have outstanding warrants, including one individual wanted out of state for an aggravated escape from custody. Oh! Broke out of a jail? Governor's office noted that several of those identified in warrants were classified as armed and dangerous with violent tendencies. Interesting. If that happened here in Washington or Oregon or California, you'd never hear from your governor that, hey, we had a bunch of people that were armed and dangerous that came out of these encampments. Need to clean those bad boys up. You'd never hear that. Because you'd hear that whole compassion. Oh, now we need to retry those relations. Do you really need to establish relationships with people that were arrested that had outstanding warrants and they're violent criminals? Are we really needing to reestablish those relationships? I don't think so. You need this approach, right? Okay, so here's the liberal mayor, Mayor Watson. Here in Central Texas, there are over 2,500 students that we know of living in 1,100 families who are experiencing homelessness. Okay, but they are not doing criminal activity in tents in public parks, in public spaces. They are not necessarily unhoused by their own choice. Agreed. Those kids, those students, they need help. Nobody is debating that. But what we're talking about is something wildly different, and that is people who are criminals and drug addicts and mentally ill, medicating themselves, living in these encampments without any rules, without any regard for public order, public safety. Little Johnny and little Susie can't play at the park because you got a bunch of whacked out, addicted criminals running the place. So, this notion that, hey, we're concerned about the 2,500 students who we know of living in 1,100 families who are experiencing homelessness. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. So every time the conversation goes to homelessness, they throw out these stats that you're really talking apples to oranges. We are talking about the unhoused population living in a tent in a known encampment with known criminal activity. And that's what Governor Abbott is coming in and just, boop, let's clean these bad boys out. Look at who gets the quote here. People like MJ continue to move from one camp to another at least 2 or 3 times each month. Along with losing a place to sleep, she has also lost hope of getting lasting help from the city. No, they want you to die. I don't think any city official wants you to die. They want you to be killed off, said MJ. Why would you even print that? You know it's not true. This is a person with severe mental illness and or addiction. I saw a video when she stated this, and she had all kinds of skin issues going on. She's on drugs, right? She's homeless. So she's upset that she got swept again because she's living illegally in a city park, and she wants to just keep doing drugs and do her thing. But Governor Abbott is saying, nope, today Not today. Not doing that today. Mayor Watson said he wants to work with the governor to find real solutions. Okay, that's fine. And in the meantime, sweep your camps. Keep that going. There you go. He invited Governor Abbott to look at some of the programs he is running. Texas has better programs on homelessness than many other states. States that just kind of kowtow and let criminal activity go. Those are the ones that are really suffering. And that's basically the entire West Coast right now, all the way from into Canada, Vancouver, BC, down to California. You've got, the numbers of homeless are just increasing. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are being spent, and the homeless is increasing. And the bottom line to that is build it and they will come. And that's what West Coast, Best Coast has done. That is not what Texas is doing. They're doing the opposite. They're basically pushing back. They are taking the brakes and they are pumping those brakes. Hey, we don't accept this. We don't accept homelessness, criminal activity, sex trafficking, drugs, stolen goods in our park system. We do not accept that. And if you as the libtard mayor can't figure that out, we're going to make you figure it out because we're going to come in and sweep it up. It's what Texas is doing. Don't mess with Texas. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.